Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and back to another urban calisthenics workout of my full body calisthenics routine. In today's session, I've got for you the ultimate box calisthenics workout, for which you'll be doing 6 exercises on the box for 30 seconds of work, 15 seconds of rest for a total of 4 rounds. That's 18 minutes in total. Now, as mentioned, this is a box workout, but don't worry if you don't have a box available. You could use a chair, just make sure it's stable enough to use. As always, practice those instructionals before getting stuck in, alongside a thorough warm-up. Now, I will leave a link in the description below for a warm-up that I feel is suitable for this routine. However, feel free to do one of your own. That's enough from me. Let's see what's in store. Now, just before we kick things off with the workout, I just want to let you know that if you want to gain access to the full Urban Calisthenics library, then head over to urbancalisthenics.com, where you can access over 100 calisthenics workouts with a new workout added every single week for just $4.99 a month. You can also take advantage of a 7-day free trial with no commitments and no payments up front. Now let's get into the workout. Okay, so for our box squat pike to shoulder flex, you're going to start by getting yourself a box or even a sturdy chair. From here, you're going to start by placing your feet on the box to the point where when your hands are on the floor, your legs are going to be as straight as possible. Now the legs are straight, I'm going to bring the hands towards the hips as best I possibly can, but without bending the legs. This is very important, keeping the legs as straight as possible. From here, we're going to start by moving into your deepest squat, taking your backside towards the heels, but still pressing firmly through the floor. Once you've reached that point, you're then going to move back into your pike position, straightening the legs, and then we're going to move into our shoulder flex, where we simply push the chest towards the box without bending the arms, but also pushing tall at the same time. After you've moved through your shoulder flex, you move back into your pike, and then return back into your squat position. So it's one pike, one shoulder flex, and then back into your squat once again. So for the box dips, you're going to need to get yourself a box like mine, or even get hold of a sturdy chair. When we set up for the box dip, you're going to start by sitting on the box or even the chair, making sure the hands are set either side of the hips with the fingers wrapped around the front of the box. From here, you're going to move into an L position, keeping the hips down, keeping the legs as straight as possible, keeping the shoulders packed down, and keeping the arms as straight as possible. From here, you're going to make your way as low as you possibly can, taking your head forward slightly, but with the intention of trying to take the backside to the floor. Once you've reached this end point without the shoulders coming up, you're going to extend the arms as best you possibly can without throwing the hips up into the air. So avoid doing this as you reach the top position. Just try to keep that hip hinge all the way through. So again, pressing down through the box to keep the shoulders packed down. Get the back as near to the box as possible. Hit that end range without sitting down, and then make your way back into your top position. So for the box walkouts, you're going to start by placing your feet on top of the box. And then from here, you're going to have your hands stretched out as far away from the box as you possibly can, ideally with the shoulders behind the hands. In this position, you're going to be separating the shoulders, forcing the ribs down, engaging the backside, and having a little bit of softness through the legs. From here, you're going to walk your way into the box by weight shifting, keeping the shoulders very, very tight to the head, and pushing tall on every walk that you do. You're going to walk as close to the box as you possibly can until your legs can't physically take any more, but you've got to keep your legs as straight as possible. Once you've reached that point, remaining high on the shoulders, you can weight shift your way back into your dish position until you can't go any further. So locking in that dish shape, weight shift with a narrow setup on the hands, keeping the shoulders as tight to the head as you possibly can. When you reach your end point, you simply walk out and back into your dish. So for our box tuck to L's, you're going to start by placing the hands either side of the hips and keeping the arms as straight as possible. From here, you're going to draw the knees into the body to work into the tuck, and the intention is to now move into our L position. When you move into the L position, it's important that you lock the legs out as best you possibly can and try to stay in an upright position. Once you've reached that L, you draw your knees back into the tuck and then repeat. So the next progression of this drill, with the same setup as the previous one, the intention now will be to try to take the backside off the box. And we're going to do that by offering some downward compression on the shoulders, still keeping the torso in an upright position and bringing the knees as high into the chest as we possibly can. So hands are in the same spot, pressing down through the shoulders. As you can see, the backside comes off and the knees are deep into the chest. And now we're going to work through our L to tucks from here. So straight legs on the L, confirm the position, knees back into the chest, and then repeat. So for the elevated pike press, you're going to start by getting yourself a box or even a sturdy chair, and we're going to start by bringing the hands to the floor, bringing the feet up onto the box and trying to get to around about right angles at the hips. So from here, I'm going to set the hands to around about shoulder width, maybe a little bit wider, and then when I'm going to step on the box, the intention is to get the legs straight, but have the hips, shoulders and hands pretty much on the same line, as best you possibly can. From this position, you're going to start by taking your head forwards, bringing the elbows into the body, and when your head hits the floor, you're essentially forming a triangle between your hands and your head. Now, keeping the forearms straight and upright, you're going to push up and through. So when you reach that top position, think about pushing your chest towards the box whilst keeping the legs straight. So again, I'm going to take the weight forwards, bring the head in front of the hands, form the triangle, push up, and then through as you reach that top position. Now if this is too challenging, what we can do is bring the box a little bit lower, and what this does, it takes some of that extra effort out of the shoulders. If that's still too challenging, so that's me taking the box down, if that's still too challenging, what we can do is just take it from the floor. So the setup is pretty much the same. This time you're in a pike on the floor, hand setup is the same. Now there's going to be less weight going through the shoulders. It's still intense, but there's going to be less weight going through the shoulders. So again, I'm going to break the floor, take the head out in front of the hands, touch the head on the floor, push up, push through, and then repeat. So again, break, head in front, keep the legs straight so it keeps the hips up at all times. If this is still too challenging, what you can do is get yourself a prop, such as a yoga block, place it where your head's going to go on the press, and do it from there. So for our box step up dish, you're going to start by moving into a support position, making sure the arms are as straight as possible and the shoulders are just in front of the wrists and stable. The ribs are pulled down and the pelvis is pulled under ever so slightly. From this position, the intention is to bring one hand on the box at one time, and we do that through minimizing any rotation through the midsection and also trying to lock in that shape. So what I'm going to do is weight shift to one side ever so slightly, bring one hand onto the box. Now when that hand reaches the box, I'm going to use some compression to allow me to bring the second hand to the box. I'm going to bring one hand back to the floor, second hand back to the floor, and then do the same on the other side. So a tiny amount of weight shifting to one side, pressing through that shoulder. Now this hand comes onto the box. I'm going to press through the box to release the second hand and bring that hand onto the box. Again, it's really important that we minimize the amount of rotation that's going through the body and lock in that whole of body shape. Thanks so much for taking part in this urban calisthenics workout. I hope you had a great time challenging yourself and breaking a sweat. If you did find this workout useful and beneficial, please give me a like and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. If you do want to gain access to the full Urban Calisthenics library, please visit urbancalisthenics.com where you can gain access to over 100 workouts with a new workout added every single week for just $4.99 a month. Keep up the great work, stay motivated, and I'll see you on the next workout.